Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iWorkinSport live interview. This is the show where we talk to accomplished sport business professionals who come here to share their knowledge, their experience, tips, and advice in order to help you succeed in your career. If we're just meeting, my name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport, and I want to sincerely thank you for being here with us today. If you're coming back, you know the drill. Let me know where you're watching from, right? If this is your first time here, also let me know where you're watching from, but also let me know in the comments that this is your first time here. It would be good to know. Are you watching the replay? Please leave a message. We check all of them too. If you don't know iWorkinSport, we're a platform to help you accelerate your career in sport. Right, we do that many ways. One of the ways we do that is by organizing events such as the iWorkinSport Job Fair. If you're looking for a job, you can check out our job board on iWorkinSport.com. You can also find a comprehensive list of sports management courses on the platform, as well as a list of career coaches. So check out iWorkinSport.com. Also, if you'd like to connect with like-minded professionals and to have access to some exclusive content like the free career coaching sessions, or if you'd like to watch the presentations from the latest job fair, I invite you to join our community. And that is weworkinsport.com, right? The main brand is iWorkinSport, but the community, because it is a community, it's called weworkinsport.com. Now, before I continue, I have a favor to ask you. If you're coming back and know this channel, excuse me, and our content, can you please hit that like button? And obviously, if you're coming back, I'm guessing that you maybe already have subscribed to the channel. If not, it would be great if you do it, and also click that bell icon to get our notifications. Obviously, this is for you if you're watching it on YouTube. If you're watching on LinkedIn, maybe you can subscribe to our YouTube channel later. If this is your first time, though, don't hit the like button yet, nor subscribe. Stay a little longer, see if you like it. And if you do like it, then I would appreciate it if you do that. That helps the channel being found by other people who might enjoy this content too, right? So this is enough about us. Let me introduce my guest. Today I have the pleasure to welcome to the show Daniel Krebs, Senior Operations Manager in the Member Associations Division at FIFA. Daniel has spent nearly a decade with FIFA, contributing significantly to its operational efficiency. He's currently based in Paris, where he manages the various planning matters within the Member Association Division. He also oversees the FIFA Development Zurich AG as its managing director. The company is a subsidiary that oversees FIFA's 11 regional offices. They play an instrumental part in implementing FIFA's development program, the so-called FIFA Forward, right? I think it's best if I leave Dan to tell us everything about that, so about what he did at FIFA and about his journey in sport. So without further ado, let me invite Daniel to join me. Obviously, I always have the clip, so he'll come right after this. Hi, Dan. Let me actually get you in here.
Hey,
There he
Jaco.
is. Hey, welcome. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. You're in Paris, right?
Since this morning, yes. Yes.
Since this morning. Let
Yeah.
me, this is a live show. There is, people watching from all over sort of the world. I will show you very quickly, just so you have an idea where people are watching from. We have, Fab watching from Birmingham, right? Mamé Paulo in Brazil, Gabriel Liberati also saying hi. I know him, he's in Brazil as well. Catherine, I'm not sure where you're watching from, but thanks for being here with us. Enrique Pelosi, great to have you here with us. In São Paulo now. I know he's based in England, but watching from São Paulo today. Joaquin is here with us as well. Who else? Sorry, Arno Sport in Mexico. Ignacio is in Lima, right? In Peru. Is that right? Who else? Sorry. Alex in Portugal. Sajida in Qatar. Jasdeep saying hi from Barcelona. Mary in Kenya. Erica in Neuchâtel. How are you? Bruno in Paris. Zone, Chacha, maybe in Latvia. We have someone watching on LinkedIn in Portland, Oregon. Sorry, I can see your name here in the system. And Jazid here in Barcelona. So as you could see, we have people watching us from all over the world. Then this is a show about career mostly. We really want to know about what you're doing at FIFA, but I think we can start with a summary of your career. Maybe we can start talking even about what you studied and how is that how did you come to start working in sport? Can you start there?
Yes, of course. So good to see. I don't see, but thank you everyone for joining today. I grew up in Zurich. So I was born in Bermuda, but then when I was 3 years old, my parents moved back to Zurich, and that's where I went to the gymnasium. And after that, my first decision was I went to the École Hôtelière de Lausanne to follow hotel management, as parts of my family did, my father, grandfather. And it was a great time with internships in Monaco, in Portugal. But at some point, I just realized that the last percentage of passion was missing for me to work in evenings or weekends on hotels. And then I heard about this football MBA at Liverpool University, and I didn't know that something like this existed. And then I thought, like how cool would that be to combine my passion with my profession? And that's then so what I did in 2002. I went to Liverpool, did this MBA in football business.
That was probably one of the first editions, yeah?
Yes, I think the third or the fourth. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that was my entry into football, and now 20 years later, I'm still in football. And what I did then after, I did an internship at Newcastle United during that 1 year study in the conference and banqueting department. And my plan was originally to combine my knowledge from the hotel industry with sports. So looking at conference and banqueting, hospitality activities in football stadiums. And that's also I did my dissertation about that topic. But then I got a job opportunity to join Soccerex in London in 2003. And it was a sales job, sales and marketing. And I didn't see myself really in sales, but I thought, hey, even if it doesn't work out, like Soccerex, for those who don't know, it's a company that organizes conferences and exhibitions in football. And I thought, even if it doesn't work out, I'm sure I'll be making lots of good contacts, widen my network in football, and can maybe get another job elsewhere. But then as it turned out, I stayed 8 years there, and it was an amazing time at Soccerex in sales and marketing.
That's where we met. I think you were still at Soccerex when we first met.
Must have been at least 15 years ago that we met for the first time.
I know. Well, Soccerex has a great alumni, right? So many people that were there working with you that now it's all over the place in the industry. the other Dan, Pazer, and Paul Bryson, and well,
Misha,
many others, right?
indeed, yeah. No, it was an amazing time. It was a family atmosphere, the family business. And when I joined, we were 5 people, and when I left, we were 30 people. It was really a great success story over those 8 years. And yeah, first sales and marketing, and then more also in the planning, strategic side of the business later on. And then, because I saw Joaquin left a message, my son, and so quick say hi to Joaquin and Soleil, they're watching. My son was born in London, and so we wanted to move back to Switzerland so that he can go to school there. And as a result, I left Soccerex. I stayed on as a non-executive director, but set up my own business, a consultancy, which was focusing on sub-Saharan Africa. Because through my time at
Remember that. When was that again?
that was 2012 and 13.
Right.
So that was because a lot of my network at Soccerex was Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, also linked to the World Cup in South Africa, because we did 3 editions of Soccerex in Joburg from 2007 to 2009.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. And so what my thinking was, I knew through Soccerex a lot. I knew all the different service suppliers to football. Anyone who was doing business in football, I knew them, and I knew the African market, and I saw myself as a first mover, as a broker, to bring those 2 worlds together. And then during that time, probably the most the thing I'm still nowadays the most proud of was I organized on behalf of Soccerex. I did a deal with the Lagos state government to do a Soccerex event in Lagos. And at that time, like every 5-6 weeks, I would travel to Lagos to organize the event, stuck in Lagos traffic, doing meetings, etc., with my friend Abimbola Ilo, my business partner back then. And so I did that for 2 years, my self-employment. And during that time, I also had a couple of mandates with the member association division at FIFA as a consultant. And then it was a tough decision, but then this job opportunity came about in the member association division. And that was now almost 10 years ago. And that's how I ended up at FIFA now.
No, that's great. Nice to hear it. Well, I think I knew most of that story. The one thing I didn't know is that you're born in Bermuda, did you say?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I keep the secret. But yeah, my dad was working in the hotel industry, and so at that moment in time, he was working in Bermuda, and so yeah. But then we moved back when I was 3.
Cool. Listen, let's talk about your current job at the member association divisions there. Tell us what is it exactly so that you do. Maybe you can try to describe if there's anything like a normal job day for you. What would be a normal day? I see that you travel a lot. You're, I think, between Zurich and Paris, right? But paint a picture for us. What is your job like?
So in terms of a normal day, I woke up at 6, left Zurich from home at 6:30, then took the train to TGV at 7:30, and was in the Paris office here at 12:15. I mean, the Paris FIFA opened an office in Paris 1.5 years ago. An amazing location at Place de la Concorde. For you who know Paris a bit, it's a very historic building, the Hotel de la Marine, where used to be, well, in the 18th century, still was the deposit of furniture for any royal furniture which was not in Versailles was deposited here. And then for 200 years, it was the headquarters of the French Navy. And now it's like an office common space for different offices. They refurbished it. In any case, it's a beautiful building here. You've seen it, Joao. We've seen each other recently here. And a member association division is based in Paris. And the member association division, we're kind of like of the international affairs division at FIFA. So you have to imagine that FIFA is made up by 211 members, 211 national football associations, and they're all members of FIFA. And we are the division that are closest to them. So we have different regional subdivisions, a subdivision for Africa, for Americas, for Asia, Oceania, and Europe. And we are the first point of contact for them. For the people are based in Paris. We're about 40 people based here, but also
How many?
40, about 40. But also, as you mentioned, we have at the moment there are 10 regional offices around the world, about 30 people. They are all over the world, and we're all together. We're about 70 people, and we're one team spread all over the world, and the first point of contact for the members for any questions or support they need. And yes, also, as you said, our core business is the Forward program. So just to give you an idea, in this cycle now from 2023 to 26, each member association of the 211, they get $8 million from FIFA for development work. They can use that partly for administration costs, but also to do development projects like a football pitch or organizing a youth tournament. And we are the division.
So is that every national association receives that? Is that in a 4-year cycle, right? The 8 million.
Indeed, like the last cycle was 6 million, and now for the new cycle it increased to 8 million. And so we are the division that administer this program, the Forward program. And myself, I have kind of a coordinating role in all of this to make sure also we harmonize certain procedures across all the regional subdivisions. And yes, since April, I'm also the managing director of the FIFA Development Zurich AG, which is a FIFA subsidiary where all these 10 regional offices are feed into.
Right. And how is it for you now having, if I understood correctly, then you wear two sort of different hats. One is managing that subsidiary, and the other one is as the operations sort of manager there of the member association division. They seem like they're very sort of connected, but are two very different roles.
Yes, it's a good question. This is like now a new experience for me wearing those two hats, and it's really enriching because I get to see different perspectives. As I was the operation manager, or still am, with 60% of my time, a lot of the things I organize is centrally focused. Then try to implement certain measures, but they come from the center originally. And now with wearing the hat of the regional offices, I'm also representing the interest of these 10 regional offices in Zurich and Paris. So I also have this perspective and mindset of how it is for our colleagues in the office in Auckland or in Panama or in Dakar. Just like a basic example, for the office in Auckland, obviously they just had an amazing time now with the Women's World Cup. But when we organize meetings, for them, time difference is always not the easiest. If we try to get everybody together in a meeting, they have to stay up late often to join us for a Teams call. So I have the privilege now to with these both hats, have different perspectives and try to come up with the best sort of solution for everyone.
That's great to hear. And it's a question that I normally ask. I really would like to know, with all that, what is then your favorite thing about the job that you do? What is it that you like the most about your job?
So, I mean, besides the obvious fact that I work in football, which was, 20 years ago, I made that conscious decision. I wanted to work in football to combine my passion with work. Besides that, I think just the international flair of my work. And I mean, it's a true privilege to work for FIFA now for almost 10 years. And not only because of FIFA, but I've been in over 70 countries around the world.
Right.
Of course, often it's just you go to the hotel, meet the member association, maybe go to a football pitch, see some projects, and then after 2-3 days you go back. But even in such short time frames, you have dinner with local people and you get to know their perspective and where they're coming from. And and just that being connected with different cultures. We had a team meeting beginning of this year in Paris. Of the 70 people, we were 52 nationalities. So maybe we're in the contention of one of the most diverse organizations or teams with 52 nationalities. But just that cultural and diversity and an international mindset is what I love most.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite thing about working in this industry as well. The cultural diversity and how rich it is, working with people from all over the world. And actually, in our case now, being able to speak to people all over the world, this is, I think, one of the things that I like the most as well. But by the way, to everyone listening to us, don't forget, this is interactive. So if you have questions as well to Dan, let me know, right? And
just say the automated lights off in the office. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. This is live. This things happen. So prepare your questions. If you have any comments or questions, post in the comments, and we'll try to address them as we go. It's nice to see there's actually some people here that are indicating that it's their first time. So Just Deep in Barcelona said it's the first time here. Mary from Kenya as well. Although Jesus says, greetings from a hand, definitely not my first time. Yes, Jesus, it's a constant guy here. Philip is watching from Paris. Atef Naz in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot happening there, huh? And Mauricio is watching from Rio, saying hi from Rio. Then, our audience, it's a lot of people that are starting their careers in the sport, either want to start or have recently started. You just described a career there spanning about 20 years there for you. In your case, I think, what were the skills necessary to thrive in the sport business? At least what were your skills that I think helped you thrive in your career?
Yes, we had a bit of a chat before, so actually I was reflecting on that, and it's a bit of I find it difficult to answer because there's so many different jobs in football, like in other industries. Like, so if you work in finance, in the finance division of a sports organization, then you need finance, or if you work in marketing or event management. So there's many skills that you need, irrespective in what industry. It's more the actual job that you do, and there's so many different jobs in sports. I think what I said before, just first, I think follow your passion, do something that you're passionate about, because then automatically I think you're more performant and more willing to go the extra mile. In my particular context, yes, as I think just the cultural awareness, this love to be in touch with people from different backgrounds. I think that is, it speaks for other industries as well, but I think in particular sports and in the international sports, it's a very important factor.
Yeah.
And then I think, and then in skill, I think just the other thing I just thought, like, if I would start over again, just the network is just always so key again, as in other industries, but also I think especially in sports, the network that you cultivate over the years. And I have to admit, sometimes I do neglect it. I could be better. But I think that the network that you set up, cultivate over the years is really key. And especially as a young person, don't get discouraged if maybe it doesn't go exactly the way you want. There's so many different paths. And I've met people, all you as well. We've seen each other so often throughout our career at different events. You always bump into people again, and people, they move and suddenly they go to another job in another organization, and who knows? There's always so different paths how to succeed in any industry, but also particularly in sports.
It's a relatively small world, I would say. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And if you were to think about your career, what do you think was the greatest challenge that you had to face, and how did you overcome it? By the way, there are some questions while you think about it. There's some questions arriving here. Thanks, guys, that are posting there. Uh, I'm going to get to that in a second. But biggest challenge in your career, Daniel, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge is at the same time the biggest achievement is that the Soccerex event in Lagos, just because from the start there was a negative mindset from different people, like any international person you spoke to an event in Lagos, then the first thing, the reaction you got, they would get robbed or they didn't feel secure to come to Lagos. And then the people in the local market, they were often suspicious because often they would get people would talk about something, an event that would happen, but in the end an event doesn't happen. So there was also doubters in the local market. And then, just as I mentioned, I was like every 5 to 6 weeks I was there. We were working the market, going from meeting to meetings, doing media interviews, sponsorship meetings, looking at operational aspects of the event. And in terms of overcoming was just, I think, the perseverance. Just you at the end, when you organize an event, you don't know, especially if you look at it from a sales and marketing perspective, you don't know how many people will show up at the event. You only will get the proof at the end of the day. Obviously, there's some pre-registration, but just the perseverance, just believe in what you do, and you just have to go for it. And in the end, the perseverance paid off. It was a successful event. Nobody got harmed. Like international people, their mindset was changed when they were in Lagos positively, and also from the local people, they were surprised for such an event to take place. And so that was my biggest satisfaction and challenge, just to keep on, even if you when you have setbacks, you just have to keep on trying and moving on.
Right. Excuse me. So I was going to ask you, what advice you normally give to people that are starting their careers in sport. I'm sure that you, like myself, you get to people, looking for you and asking for some advice, especially if they want to start. I don't know if there's any sort of one in particular, but we're actually having already. So I'm actually going to ask you two questions in one. Then you can tie into that, because we're starting to get some questions from people about that, about career, also about advice. For instance, Ignacio here is asking, how does one knock the door on FIFA for potential jobs? Mm-hmm. So maybe start with a general advice, and then you can give one sort of maybe about FIFA specifically, and then I'll go to a few other questions and comments here.
I think, well, some of it I think I mentioned before, with the network and just being more open to see what path you end up taking. There's always different ways to make a career in any industry, in sports in particular. I think and also where you work in, João, also with the FIFA Masters, where you work a lot, and me with the Liverpool MBA, my background is, the formal education, it helped also from an alumni perspective. So at the beginning of my career, I was quite maybe too theoretical focused. I didn't have too much practical experience, and later on I was really more focused on developing my practical experience. That's something I was lacking in the beginning of my career. But having said that, yes, the formal education gives you just a bedrock to take, to go from there, and it's the alumni which can be very powerful, and so that's the one thing I would just recommend to anyone also for formal education. Obviously nowadays with social media, or like everything with online courses, there's so many ways to do get education. But if you're part of a formal entity, with alumni network, I think that's very powerful. And for FIFA, yes, obviously, like all jobs are posted on FIFA.com. So that's the first thing I would say. Then there, otherwise, it's then again it goes back to network. If you can meet someone, people who can give you an insight, you can talk to a bit of how it's like. Then it's always easier if you know people. But yeah, the first point is always you see on FIFA.com all the jobs are posted.
Yeah, that's right. I think on FIFA, obviously the online manufacturer, I think, works a lot. I can tell people as well that the FIFA normally participates as well in our job fair. This last year they couldn't come the last minutes, although they still sort of presented, but they have participated in many others. The thing that you talked about education as well, I think it's great advice. Although whenever people ask me about that, they always ask me, "Oh, should I do a master's degree in sport or not?" It's funny because what I tell people is that your intention is just to work in is only to find a job in sport, then probably you shouldn't, because it's a big commitment, right? It's many years of invested. Sorry, it's a 1 full year invested there, and it's a bunch of money. And and sometimes you may graduate and start with an internship. So there's quicker and cheaper ways to do that. But if you really want to also enjoy that international outlook, the whole experience, then I think it definitely makes a lot of sense. Just have a quick, we go to here. There's no problem here. So I'll try to read a few some more comments and questions here. Then just bear with me 1 second. In particular, right? We talked about skills and what you think were your skills that helped you thrive in your career. But Philip, Mike here is asking, instead of skills, what are the specific characteristics that you look for in a potential employee when you're bringing in your team, right? So obviously you talk, if you're applying for a finance role, they must know that, or if it's operations, it's something different. But when you're talking about maybe to come and work with you, is it that you normally look for?
It's a very good question, because I think nowadays, some of the skills you can learn and acquire also on the job, but certain characteristics you bring with you or you don't. Again, in a FIFA context, and especially in our division, I just think the cultural awareness is key. So somebody who is at ease to work with different cultures, who I think that and has an understanding and is respectful in that sense, I think that is really a key aspect to do well in FIFA, and just that international mindset. I think that would be the first thing personally I would be looking at. It doesn't mean that you have to have traveled already X amount of times, but just even if in your small daily life you have acquired, or you're okay and feel comfortable in such environments with different cultures.
Right. Let me check here. Bob says, "Hi Daniel, I like how you started at Soccerex and staying for 8 years. Do you think finding your way in sport is a case of trial and error, doing different roles, trying different paths, and experiments?" I think his question is.
Yes, as I didn't see that coming, that Soccerex job. As I mentioned, like the opportunity presented that itself, and I didn't see myself as a salesperson, and maybe that answers some of the question. Yes, I'm looking back, I'm really grateful that I did through that path, because I acquired certain skills, how to sell, um, and to negotiate, and to be a bit tough in some business negotiations, which otherwise maybe I wouldn't have picked up. And looking back, that helped a lot. So I think it's just, be open-minded. Some I like to plan. I'm Swiss, so but sometimes things just happen, and when the opportunity is right, it's also a bit trial and error, and you seize the opportunity when it presents itself.
Yeah. No, I mean, another thing that I think is quite interesting in your career, and I normally talk about that. I talk to several students, especially the ones from the FIFA Masters and others as well, is that especially when they start and they look at working in sport, at first they see their career as very narrow. 80% or more of them will tell you that they want to work for FIFA or UEFA or at the IOC, and that's pretty much it. Or some football clubs, but very sort of limited to specific types of jobs. And then I think the one thing that I normally try to tell them is, listen, it's much, much broader than this. And a company like Soccerex or Sports Pro, and I started at SportCal at the time, or business or leaders or whatever they are not really the first ones that you think of. But sometimes they're small companies, as you said, maybe 20 people or so. But the reality is some of those companies really liaise and deal with so many players in the industry. So it's a great school. And as I said, there's so many people that were at Soccerex and then went to do great things in sport. Actually, there's a comment from one that I think worked with you there too. So
Yeah.
Renata is saying hi. She's here in Switzerland, and so another one that doesn't let me lie. So I think this example it's a great example to see if you're kind of broad in your view, especially at the beginning of your career. You can get some great opportunities there.
Yes, and just to add to that, and as you've seen it when you go to events like Soccerex, you see companies or sectors that are linked to football or to sports, which at first you didn't even think that there's a link. But obviously the sports industry, they need so many suppliers, and so there's so different ways to get into the industry. And then, as you say, you can take it as a step, and then you can still end up at FIFA later, or at your favorite football club, etc.
Right. There are more questions here. I'll in comments. I'll get to them. One thing I wanted to ask you then, and we always talk about our successes, things that went well for us, and that's what we like to talk about. But sometimes when things don't really work out, you can consider a failure or something that simply didn't go as planned. It's a great source of learning for us. So, do you have a favorite one? Something that didn't really work out for you that was taught you a valuable lesson?
A favorite one, well, just what just spontaneously comes to my mind now is I just did this summer online course from Harvard Business School, like on leadership, and there one topic was failure, how to deal with mistakes, disappointments. And I posted something in the online community, and I received a lot of positive feedback on that. So maybe I can share that. It's just I just realized over the years, whenever I make a mistake or there's a disappointment, that the most important decision still lies ahead of you. So let's say I made a mistake. For example, I forgot something, and then how do I react to that mistake? For example, do I take responsibility, go to my boss and say, hey, look, I made a mistake here and there, but then I took the right corrective actions. And that kind of helps me, like also now in new situations when there's a disappointment or a mistake, that I always know the most important decision, the most important action still lies ahead of me, so I can still act, react, and change the outcome to something which might have seemed like a big mistake, disappointment before. And that mindset helps me a lot, and I try to remember that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. There is another comment here from Mary. I think she's in Kenya, if I remember correctly. She's saying that I was recently working in the Women's World Cup and was based in Auckland. And yes, I agree that networking is a very important aspect when looking to grow in the football industry. So a testimonial here from her. Philip Matt here asks, what would you say is the X factor for a potential FIFA employee, in your opinion? I think we covered that slightly, but maybe you want to touch on that again.
The X factor, again, the international, just the FIFA is the pinnacle of the football family organization, and so that really that international feel is kind of the one. If I look at all the employees, obviously we have all different skills in different departments, but the one thing which obviously where I see overall is of course the love for football, obviously, but just this international flair of what we do. We're really all over the world, and as also our president's vision, making football truly global, and in FIFA, even though we were the global organization for a long time, of course, but in our mindset, we're becoming even more truly global year by year.
Right.
The light is still gone out, but you can continue.
No worries. Take your time. So, is it with a sensor?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. There's a question here from Alex Alcantara. So a greeting from Liverpool. I'm also an alumni of the Football Industry MBA program. What is the best event you recommend for networking?
That's a tough one. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have been really well informed. I tend not to, and that's a bit contradicting what I've said before, but I haven't, over the last few years, not been going to many of such like classical networking events like Soccerex or Leaders or what else is out there. So honestly, I don't have an overview, and I don't know how they evolved over the years. So I wouldn't be able to say which ones are good now or not. But in the end, it's always about the more I show up, the luckier I get, right? So I would, obviously sometimes there's a cost as well to these events, and travel cost, and sometimes they get also maybe student deals. If you're young, maybe you can get a special deal. But it just, the more you show up, the luckier you get. Especially if you're looking for opportunities, I would just nothing is a wasted opportunity, I think.
Yeah, if I may add to that, again, as you said, also depends on what you're looking for, what type of industry you're in, because you're talking about football, but if you're dealing with you're working with media rights, for instance, an event that is a must go is probably Sportel in Monaco, right? If it's a more generic about football, obviously Soccerex, they changed the management and ownership recently, but still a big brand, and it's a good event. They're going to take place in Miami at the end of the year. The World Football Summit happens now in Sevilla. It's one that grew a lot recently. A new one is the Thinking Football Summit. So you have the World Football Summit, and the Thinking Football Summit was created by the Portuguese League. So they're going to have their second edition now in the beginning of September, right? If you or Alex or anyone else is interested in any of those and you would like to have like discounts for those, you can join the WeWorkinSport.com community. We have partnerships with all of them, so there are discount codes for members there. So check that out. I'll be definitely going to these three in Porto, Sevilla, and Miami. Another, big event for football. Well, it started with football, but now it's more about all sports. Is leaders, right? And I think they branded themselves or they positioned themselves in being a bit more sort of executive level, uh, more than, for instance, at the Thinking Football Summit, you will have groups of students also visiting. It's more, you have all kinds of people. You have a lot of executives attending as well, but I think leaders is more, um, yeah, it's much more expensive, I think, to attend as well. So those are a few that I recommend you're looking at. And as I said, we have a calendar on for events of our partners in weworkinsport.com. So I recommend that you check that out. Let me see here a few other questions. Then there's a lot. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to cover them all. Claudine Breton says, if applying to FIFA Zurich, is German essential, or it can be considered without it? I assume most of work is in English for all the international work. I don't think for any position, the only language, right, at FIFA that you must have is, well, especially working at the headquarters, is English, right? Obviously, if you work in some offices across the world, there will be places where you require French or other local languages, right? Spanish, maybe, if it's in the Americas. But what can you say about that? Sorry, I'm kind of answering because I've been dealing a lot with FIFA HR and but please.
No, you answered it well. So it's, yeah, English is the main language. I mean, it's great about FIFA. I can go through the day speaking English, French, Spanish, and German during my day, which is really enriching. But when you come to Zurich, there's many who don't speak German, and then some of them you can take or FIFA offers language courses. So if you then move to Zurich, you can take courses and learn German, but you can go through your job and survive without German. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the rule there, the mandatory language that everybody needs to speak is English, and normally when you apply for job, other languages or other FIFA languages are welcome and might strengthen your application. And then if another language I think is required for the role, whether it's German or French or Spanish or whatever it is, depending on where the role is, it will be in the job description, saying that you must have a high level of German or something like it. Then, so there's a lot of questions here, and I try to give some preference to them since they're here live.
No problem.
Jasdeep Singh says, hello, I have a question regarding finding a way in football world. I'm Jasdeep, currently pursuing my master's in sports management. My question is how to get into football world as management sector, as currently I am paying more focus on volunteer work life for World Football Summit. Is it a good approach? So if I understood correctly, he'll be volunteering in Sevilla for the World Football Summit and asking for advice on how to progress from there, I think.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, volunteering for an event where like a lot of people come together. I think that's a great approach, to build your network, and then from there anything can happen. Which I didn't know now what age level the question of the person, but I've seen it at FIFA and at Soccerex often, like young people coming in for an internship. Obviously, like an internship at FIFA that would be obviously great, of course, but also there's in other areas internships is a good way to get a foot in somewhere, even though I guess you financially need to see if that's then viable for you. but I think is it? Are you from? Is from India? The person was it, or no, not necessarily.
It didn't say Jazip Singh. It sounds like it, but it didn't say. I think he's studying here in Europe.
Okay.
I think he's volunteering for the World Football Summit, but he didn't say which program.
Yeah, I think volunteering is definitely a good option to.
Yeah, especially for an event like that, as we just pointed out, right? Because they have so many, stakeholders in sport going there. You'll be able to contact them. And the great thing when you're volunteering there, you're probably providing some services and helping, and people will, see some of your job. Like I had people volunteering for our job fair here. That some recruiters came to me and said, "João, where did you find this guy? I mean, I think he's doing great work. I want him to come and and work with us." And the guy was actually only 18, was still doing his bachelor, but already got an internship with a FIBA lined up for next year because of the job that he did, volunteering last year. So I think it's a great opportunity. Let me see what else is coming here. Lorenzo Zapata. Let me see. So Lorenzo Zapata, maybe you touched on that, but we can talk quickly about it. I have over 4 years working in sports industry, and my dream is to become part of the FIFA team. I hope once my dream come true. It's actually not a question; it's a comment. So yes. Lorenzo, good luck with that. Here, so Claudine Breton again sent me another comment. I'm considering joining again the sports industry after 20 years. That gives away my age. That doesn't mean much. I think we're all here with more than 20 years in the industry, Claudine, or about that. Gents, from both your individual experience, is the industry looking mainly at sport graduates, or is also hiring senior roles from other industries?
Yeah, I mean,
then if you can share your impression first, and then I can complete.
I can only talk what I see at FIFA, but we have recruited people from outside of sports and football, which I think is right. Like you bring in other perspectives. Obviously, like the basic football knowledge you can acquire, or even as a football fan, you have some the basic knowledge of the football industry anyway. We just recently, in terms, just to give you a practical example, in our division was somebody recruited to develop the capacity development for our members, so to provide courses and classes, workshops for our member associations. We recruited someone completely out of football, but had really this educational, didactic experience from the previous job. And the focus was put on that particular skill and not necessarily on having worked in football before. And I think that is enriching. Is for us in this case, it makes a street team bigger and stronger, and more like diverse in terms of our mindset.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was going to say something similar. Obviously, as we talked before, I think having a good network always helps in your career, right? But the reality is that the industry as a whole is trying to innovate in different areas, right? And when you're trying to innovate, you're not going to look for people coming from the same place and doing the same things that you're already doing. So it's natural that they will look for people coming from other places, sometimes from Disney, from all areas completely. So I don't know exactly, what you are doing or this past 20 years, Claudine. But perhaps, you have to be the right person in the right time as well, right? So you have to be a bit lucky. But it may be that sometimes, people coming from outside sport, depending on what that they're looking for, might be better than even if you have a big network in sport, because they just want to innovate and bring someone new. So those things happen. What else here? Oh, geez. Let me see. So Philip, Mike, again, here's finished one. Do you guys think what do you guys think is the most important skill for a future sports leader? Given speed of the digitalization and the diminishing interest in live sporting events from Gen Z, good point. How do we safeguard the sports industry and keep up with the speed of change as leaders? Good one.
Yes, maybe I let you answer that one. I have to be honest. I'm not the most active all in the digital world. Still a bit old school. One of my weaknesses, I guess. But so I leave that up to you, Joao.
Yeah, Philip, I think it has a lot to do with the answer that we just gave to the previous question, when I said that sometimes, whatever you're hiring or you're bringing talents is actually bringing from other areas, not from sport. And I mentioned, for instance, I hadn't seen your question there. So, are you going to bring someone from Disney as an example, or from someone that actually understands better everything that's happening in digital? So I think that leadership, it has to have an open mind, has to understand, the things that are happening. They need to understand how, the role that Apple, for instance, played in bringing Messi to the MLS, and how they're thinking of develop sort of that market. I think it's just being aware and being informed of what's going on, and trying to, get as much as information as possible, and not being that bubble, right? Just talking to your mates, your friends that all have the same views, and try to look at other sources of information. I think that's the main role of leadership. You don't want to be just stuck in the past. And it's funny because when we're starting and we see the leadership and it's, oh, those are all, old, and now it's changing as well, because you do have some, more women in leadership, more people from, different ethnicities. But maybe 20 years ago, when Dan and I started, it was all like all white men, almost like participating there, and all very old. And we're kind of complaining, like they're not really paying attention to what's happening. And now it's been us that been there for 20 years. And it's important that I think we keep aware like that, and challenging ourselves and looking elsewhere for knowledge. Otherwise, we will become those, I think, old men that don't have a clue what's going on. So I think your question is very important. There isn't, I think, a definitive answer for, what to do now. I think it's more about attitudes and being open to learning with Gen Z, and see, where things go. I hope that answers the question. Let me see a few. There's a few more questions here. Hello, guys. Talking. Let me just. Hello, guys. Take into account the difficult circumstances that we have in Colombia to connect with the world and education, do you think there is any way I can project my career to FIFA? Lorenzo, Daniel, if I can actually answer that, because one thing that I know is that FIFA, for instance, has an academic program in Colombia. So I don't know if you know about that, but they have a partner university there. Great program. And so if I were you, I would look into that. Obviously, doing it, any of those courses doesn't guarantee you a path into FIFA. Even when people come and do the FIFA Master, for instance, it's only about 10 to 20% of students that actually move to a internship there to FIFA. It's a good number, but still, 80% won't go there right after the program, right? But I would recommend that you look into that. I know that Colombia has a program in partnership with FIFA there and the CIES. Philip Mike is interested in the discounts for the events. Go check that out. WeWorkinSport.com, Philip. Let me see. I have a couple of more questions here because we just hit the hour.
Okay.
So I don't know if we'll be able to get everyone's questions. But before we wrap up, then you tell me if you can stay a few more minutes. We talked already about the importance of formal education. So I want to move and, working in sport, and you said that working in football by itself is one of your favorite things. What's your favorite sporting moment?
I've been thinking about that. I moved to London in 2003, and I'm a massive Arsenal fan. So it was just the year of the Invincibles when I moved to London. So I should really pick something from that year, but probably because it was my first. I mean, back in Switzerland, you were not able to watch Premier League football. I followed Arsenal since the mid-90s when I visited them once a game when I was a student. But I only started to see live Premier League football when I moved to Liverpool to study. So, but I should have picked something from that year. But maybe I was just not appreciative enough of what I've seen in that year. Historic was able to go to the Highbury as well that year. So besides that, I think there's many football. Well, since there are not that many Arsenal big moments. I think I would have tennis is my second sport. So I have to, I think, go with Roger Federer winning his first Grand Slam title in Wimbledon. That was very emotional. Yeah,
that was a long time ago. Yeah, but
20 years ago.
Who would think that he would get another 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had you that is a national fan. We had Gilberto Silva here in the podcast a few weeks ago. There is. Ricard Martinez, hey, saying hi, Daniel. Very nice to see you here. Hope you're doing great in Paris. Big hug from Zurich. Thanks for being here, Ricard. What else? Philip's like the answer that we gave. There is. We're gonna go soon. Jesus here. He knows the show, so he knows that we normally ask that. So I'll let him ask first. Do you have any books or podcasts that you like to recommend?
Yes, but maybe it's more of a left field reply from my side. So over the last few years, what I've discovered or I've done a lot is meditation and also retreats. There's a Buddhist center in the Swiss mountains where I go normally once a year for a silent meditation retreat for 3 to 4 days. So in that context of the last, let's say, 6 years, I've just experienced a lot of fascinating insights, and that how you are as a person, how you evolve as a person, obviously has then also an impact how you behave and perform in your professional life. So it's still directly related to work, how you deal in stressful situations, how you can distinguish between your perspective, because you don't always see the truth. There's always different sides to the story, not that you're too much stuck in your perspective. So I guess if there's one book I would recommend is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which was really a life-changing moment reading that book. But also 2 other books, like for example, from Sadhguru, Inner Engineering, what I really liked, and from the Dalai Lama, also the Art of Happiness. These are a couple of books which, in terms of that, let's say, personal development area, helped me a lot, and which impacts work as well.
Oh, that's great. Pav here is actually reminding us that we actually had a session with a coach on mindfulness recently at our community at We Work in Sport. So
Amazing.
definitely very, very important. Listen, I think I took more of your time than I had asked for. We passed the hour. Before we go, maybe I can ask you, I don't know if you still have anything that you'd like to share, any story, a particular story, a funny one, or something that's you know that you normally share about sports. If someone asks you, yeah, what an interesting. Do you have any
Well, I can
sort of
maybe
funny or interesting story that you'd like to share?
maybe just the best day of my working life. I can maybe end with that,
Yeah,
which
that would be
is
great. What was that?
which is, as you know, as you want to combine my passion with football with my profession. So I think the pinnacle was when Arsene Wenger he joined FIFA. So when suddenly your hero, the person you idolize, he comes to work for your organization. So that was already a big moment. And then when we moved, when we, the member association, we moved to Paris, we were going through a change phase, obviously, like relocating from the entire team from Zurich to Paris, of which I was the project manager. So that in itself was very interesting exercise. But we went through this change phase, and Arsene was very kindly agreed to do an interview, to not about sporting aspects, but to talk about change management, performance, leadership. And because everybody knew I was a big Arsenal supporter, then I was able to do the interview with him. And
That's great.
yeah, and that was probably the best day of my working life, also just because I knew I was so at ease with how he was talking. From all the years I listened to his press conferences at Arsenal. So when he was talking, I was so relaxed how he was talking with me, and we did he got the questions in advance, and then the whole interview was in one take. We didn't have to retake anything, and just like this, the relaxed atmosphere of that, and just being able to interview him on these business aspects, that was amazing. Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
And we did this in one take as well. So this was this was great. Listen, Dan, there were more comments and questions there. I'm actually had the problem with my computer, so I have to check here on my phone. But
if there's one or two questions that you see that maybe we haven't covered yet, I can still.
I think I missed a few, and so let me see. Let's see. Well, I actually think I have covered pretty much everything. Mohammed here, Chaudhry, it's commenting that what does it say? That the European countries should encourage more sort of Asians to get involved in international events like the Olympics or FIFA. There is a language barrier. So if you speak Arabic, for instance, they don't. Yeah, most of them don't know Arabic, or Chinese, for instance. They have over 1 billion people there, and definitely doesn't cover all that. So
yeah, I guess what FIFA is maybe not representative of that, because we do recruit.
Yeah, I think Arabic at least is an official language now, right?
Now, yes,
I think Portuguese is too, but
as well.
I mean, in a working environment, still, I think English definitely, I think, dominates. It is, I think,
We have 7 official languages now. Yeah.
What are the other 3? Because you have Spanish and
So
In
German,
English and German and French.
Arabic, Portuguese, and then is it it's Mandarin or Russian?
Mandarin, or I think it was actually Russian.
It was Russian, I think. Yeah, it was Russian. Yeah.
Listen, I actually went over, and now so Farid here saying that it's Russian, and our friend from Trinidad,
yes.
Hi Adil, a Trini boy, saying that Arabic was actually made an official FIFA language last year. But I know that, for instance, that Portuguese, my native language, is as well. But actually, definitely I think English is the working language in sport, and French here because where the federations are based, right? Like the IOC as well is definitely more prominent than others. But Daniel, actually, I think now going through that comments, I covered everything unless I missed anything. But I have to look at my phone, so I may have passed something. Anyway, man, thank you so much for doing this. It's been great. I want to thank everybody that's been here until the end. There was a good number of people here still with us. By the way, if you're still here, you enjoy this, if you're watching it on YouTube, hit that like button there, subscribe so you get the other interviews too, so you get the alerts and all that. Okay. Then I hope to see you again soon in person, maybe at one of these events.
And yes, and thank you, João, and I hope to see you soon again in Paris or Zurich, Lausanne.
Definitely. Right. Bye-bye, everyone. Then just hold there for another minute. I'm going to close the stream, and I'll talk to you in 1 second. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you next time.